I think like your whole way of thinking about this is from the perspective that hiring was fair before DEI. Am I wrong about that?
I think it would be an assumption to say that hiring was not fair across the board. You know,
I mean, I would never say something like that. I want you to try
yeah.
answering the question that I ask you. Okay, just try
Okay.
answering the
All
one
right.
that I asked. I'm trying to make
All
it
right.
as simple and clear as possible so we can get somewhere. But like, just
Got it.
yeah, just wrestle with it a little bit. Which is that like, I just want to know like, um, let me rewind a second and get myself back there. Okay, so
Yeah.
do you believe? It's just your belief, so you don't have to
Yeah.
explain. I just want to
Got it.
know if you believe that with the inculcation of DEI practices and being brought into the workplace, being brought into the government, being brought into business, being brought into schools, right? Do you believe that before that, hiring was meritocratic and non discriminatory?
For the most part, in my lifetime, yes.
Okay, and so um, what changed? You know, like I guess I understand that like DEI was like put into the system and whatnot, and you noticed that and whatnot. But have you noticed any kind of negative outcomes now based on the inculcation of DEI, like the ones that you were talking about, like businesses are starting to fail who use it, this and that? Like, do you have any examples of the negative consequences of bringing DEI into the arena?
Well, no, because like I don't think that an acronym has been in the corporate world that long to, observe that on a consistent basis. I just think that it's inevitable, right? So, and one thing that I think is inevitable too is you're going to have extreme instances of catastrophe. I think that's inevitable as well. So companies that are dropping in the hold on, did I lose you? Oh, there you are. Companies that are the I think we're going to see companies that are they're going to drop rank in terms of where they are in the industry. Competition wise, from number one to number two, they're going to drop down because of that. I think that is inevitable. You know?
So, would it be fair to say, right, that your perspective on this all hinges on a hypothetical future?
Well, I look at things as to whether or not they're inevitable, right?
Okay, so
Like for
you're saying
instance,
it's not hypothetical. This is something that will
it's
happen in the future. And
yeah,
so, okay.
cor-
So
correct. Because it's kind of like as an IT guy, right? We know not to put everything on one server for a national company because it'll be inevitable for that server to fail and cause a widespread failure, right? Like that's just that's why I keep using the term it's a mathematical reality. Enough time
yeah,
passes and
it
not
sounds like
one
what you're
server.
yeah, it sounds like you're trying to draw a cause and effect relationship. Would that be
Yeah,
accurate?
correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
correct.
yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
why people have a problem with it because it isn't. And so like, like you are saying it's math, but it's actually not math. It's just really your opinion and what you think. Like it's not mathematical. And so I mean as a math teacher, I've got to say it. I've just got to say it.
Well,
So like
because hold on, because probability is mathematical.
that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's why I keep saying that because it all hinges on that probability that absolutely exists. So if I have one server for an entire company, it is a probabilistic truth that eventually that server is going to fail and cause a halt in operations, right? So I look at things that are self-evidently true like that. And so if you have a DI process in your company, it's self-evidently true that eventually you know that more inefficient process is going to result in your competition
Yeah.
going past you
If
and out competing you.
if everything stays the same, right? Because if you were to
What do
upgrade,
you mean by
because
that?
well, what I mean is that if you were to upgrade your server before it failed, then that would
Yeah.
change the probabilities, right?
Well, not really, because you can have a failure on new hardware, right? So a company that a national company, there's no scenario where they're gonna trust all their stuff on one server. They're gonna buy numerous servers all at once to have that
Well,
redundancy.
we're just talking about
You
the
know, so
hypothetical
so
that
so
you
so
said.
they
Well,
eliminate or highly.
we're talking about the
But remember,
hypothetical that
it's
you
not just
said, right?
we're not just hypothetics. So these are probabilities that make things inevitable
No,
to become true.
I get it, but your
Yeah.
initial statement was that there was one server. Now there's many. So like, which
No, well, no, because you were trying to make the case that, oh, if you just upgrade that server, as opposed to adding more, right? Adding one,
listen,
two, three servers, you're talking about
listen. The case that
upgrading the
I'm
one.
trying to make, let me make it even simpler. Okay, the case that
Yeah,
I'm trying to make, forget about the servers. Okay,
yeah,
the case that I'm trying to make is that
yeah.
a business can make decisions on the edge of collapse that will stop the business from failing and can turn it around, even if they don't necessarily improve to maximum efficiency. That is a regular occurrence in business.
Sure,
Okay, so
sure.
then
Yeah,
I'm just trying to get you to understand that you're
yeah.
jumping all the way to the worst possible consequence and you're saying that that is inevitable. And I don't think that that's a good way of thinking about
Well,
it.
but I think it's a bad way to thinking to deliberately. And it's with the ad. That's what you're doing. You're introducing a risk, and you're deliberately introducing the opportunity for your competition to do better than you. So it's like shooting your own company in the foot,
Okay,
literally.
good. No, I'm glad you went down this road. So let's talk about that, right?
Yeah.
Because it sounds like you're saying, right, that if you use DEI hiring practices, it is inevitable that you will not hire the best people. Can I ask
Correct.
you why
Yes.
you don't think it's possible that you could both use DEI practices and end up getting the best people despite using those practices? Why do you think that's an impossibility?
Well, because if you hire enough times, like it's inevitable, like for you to not get that best person because that best person was white, but we got too many white people. Like that's going to happen.
I mean, that
Like
maybe
that's something that's
it's not, I
self-evident.
don't think that that's inevitable to happen. Why is that inevitable that that
Come,
would happen? That eventually they'll see a white person who they want to hire, but they'll decide not to hire them because they feel they have too many white people. Why is that an inevitability? It seems weird to think that
well,
that's
because
something
that's
that's
what.
inevitable. It's very
But
specific.
hold on, but hold on. Isn't that what DI is? Doesn't DI establish an arbitrary guideline for how many white people a company should have on board?
No.
Like, what do you think? Then you tell me what your position on DEI is, because maybe I don't understand yours.
Well, I mean, it's not my position. That's just not what it is. Okay? Like, we have to at least understand what DEI is
Yeah.
and what we're talking about. That's not it. It's not about regulating the number of white people who are in a job. That's not what it's about. Okay? It's about
Yeah.
equitable hiring practices. Like, for instance, Stephen Hawking, right?
Yeah.
He's in a wheelchair. He can't speak.
Yeah.
um, if he was just like a guy on the street trying to apply for a job and an employer realizes that they might hire someone who's in a wheelchair and can't speak, which has all of these accessibility issues that come along with it that they don't want to deal with, and they decide not to hire him, even though he's a genius and he's maybe the most meritorious and best person suited for the job because they don't want to deal with that aspect, then they're not getting the best person. So that's an outcome that can happen because people are not using DEI hiring practices and being inclusive and being accessible. It's not just about
But
race
hold on.
DEI, right?
So suppose what you just said is true, right? Someone chose not to hire Stephen Hawking because he's disabled. How can you even prove that that was the reason behind not hiring him? How is DI going to stop that from happening?
Well, it's not that DEI stops that from happening. It's that it's a commitment to trying to make sure that doesn't happen. That's the whole point. It's a commitment to actually seeking out people who are meritoriously qualified, who could be the best person for the job, who would be otherwise overlooked because of a history of racial discrimination against those people, like disabled people, like black people, like a generations long history of discrimination that's built in the history of the country. So like the whole point of it is to try to combat that continuation, which was never officially, nothing was like, laws were some flimsy laws that are not very effective were passed to try to give people some protections, but if you study the legal history you see that they did not work very well. And so this is a thing that has been ongoing for generations, my man, and that's what it was to deal with, is to try to say, okay, not only are we going to deal with the subjugation and oppression of black people that continues to stop them from actually getting the opportunities that they actually have earned through merit, but we're actually going to try to find hiring practices that allow us to see a wider spread of people, because we've just been going through our regular networks. You know, a lot of businesses, I'm sure, having worked in corporate, you know that businesses have ways of hiring people, right? They have people they go to, they have companies they go to, they have people they navigate through, and all of that was created under a racial hierarchy when we still had it. And people still just continue to use the same systems. And those systems are not being policed on whether they actually include more people or not. And they never have been. And so DEI is an attempt to actually try to get people to think about actively, consciously doing something to reverse the discrimination against everybody who wasn't white and male that has gone on through the generations, and try to include more people so that we can actually get more meritocracy, because we know for sure that racialized white people are hired who are not representative of merit all the time, because we see so many public examples of that.